What was your first job? I am here with my friend Pete Johnson. We're going to learn what he does soon, but I'm going to ask him first. On Earth, Pete, what was your first job?
Well, my first job for a corporation, I should say. My first job was picking up dog poop, doing
Okay,
chores around the house. But my first real job was actually at Subway. I worked there for a total of one day. I got home and I literally smelled like a sandwich for 3 days afterwards. And that's when I realized that I never wanted to work in a sandwich shop ever again. So yeah, Subway was the first place that I ever collected a paycheck from.
I like that. What in your one day at Subway? Because I worked for a corporate Mexican place, which actually was the kind of the origin of the whole Dental Nachos name. It was called Casa La Pita, and I did learn corporate places had a lot of systems, but I
Mm-hmm.
also learned they weren't very flexible. So it was a combination. Anything you learned from that experience that hey, you don't want to do again, or you've admired about what they did. In how old were you at the time when you were at Subway?
I was shoot, man. I was probably a sophomore in high school. I couldn't even drive yet. Like my parents had to drop me off at
Yeah,
work. What I did learn is Subway, they have a good system down. And that's one of the things that I think they do really well, and probably part of the reason why they're able to sell their sandwiches for so cheap is it's all just bulk orders, and then you bring it out, you put it in the little containers, and then you do your thing. And I also learned that I am not someone that wants to do any sort of manual labor.
gotcha. Yeah,
I prefer to be behind a computer or using my brain in a sense, not just sitting there and slapping mayonnaise on a sandwich. And really, like the biggest takeaway was I can't even explain to you that like my skin smelled like sandwiches. Like even after a shower, I smelled like a
yeah.
sandwich for a couple of days, and I was like, I can't do this.
I really appreciate you sharing that. So, that's what a lot of first jobs, we just had someone on shares with you what you do like, but more importantly, what you don't like.
Mm-hmm.
But I asked them, people skills are so important, but we say to young people, just go get people skills, go get them, right? But there's no people skills store. One of
Mm-hmm.
my first jobs was being a bus person, and I learned a lot about people working inside of a restaurant.
Yep.
That's helped me. I've worked in fine dining, I've worked in corporate places, I worked in truck stops. You're someone who owns a company, which we're going to get to in a minute, but I'm sure people skills are important for the people you hire. If you were telling our audience how to get some good people skills, what would be the advice from Pete Johnson?
Um, I grew up playing sports. And I think that team sports like football, I actually still coach high school football. We have a playoff game tonight, actually. I would say playing in group sports where you have to learn to work together as a team, how to communicate with people, how to manage different personalities that you are on a team with. Some people are going to be nicer than others, some people are going to be more selfish than others, and just figuring out how to manage those different types of personalities while working towards a shared goal is a
Love
great
that. I
people
say
skill.
this all the time as someone who played many sports. And just before this, I was in a very intense Google Meet, even though I don't like Google Meet. Don't invite me to Google Meets. I was there. But for 9 and 10-year-old basketball, which is going to be a coach this year. And I think sports are such a valuable thing for learning feedback. As I look back on my sports career with the different eyes, I might have had some coaches that veered from constructive criticism to breaking people down. So I do not support breaking people down.
I don't either.
But constructive criticism and feedback, and like, hey, you threw the ball out of bounds. We can't throw the ball out of bounds. I think it gives people really valuable life skills. And then my wife, who's played zero sports, because I'll explain this to you, Pete. I showed my wife a picture of someone wearing a hat, and she said, "Is that you from high school?" And I said, "If you were married to this person, you would have many millions, not instead of not any millions." And it was Justin Verlander. Okay, so a lot
Okay.
of people
Okay.
say I look like Verlander. So that will give you context on my wife's no sports thing. But she was in plays, and I actually think plays and theater
Yep.
also have a lot of value. One thing about plays and theater is kind of jealous. It's like there's not another play company trying to defeat you while you're
Yep.
playing, right?
No,
So
my daughter is she's in theater and she absolutely loves it. We just at her school they do what's called a student-led conference instead of a parent-teacher conference. And one of the things that she consistently brought up in her presentation to her mom and I was how she feels like she's good at communicating with people because she's in theater and she's very animated. And so
Yeah.
I 100% agree. Like it's a very good way to learn and to overcome fears of speaking in front of people and getting on stage. Like that's a scary thing.
Yeah, and it's a skill that we're just going to need more of, whether it's through Zooms, whether it's through FaceTimes, whether it's through TikToks. Being able to communicate your message on video and being person is key. So now I want to shift into your now job. So just tell our audience, our Dentist Job Connect audience, and our Dental Nachos audience, you guys are amazing sponsors. What does Lasso do? What was your reason for creating it? What do you
Yeah.
do to make dentist lives less stressful, more successful, and reduce crying inside?
Absolutely. Like you just said, with the amount of video that we're on these days, it's important to be able to communicate to your brand or your audience, I should say, about why someone should choose to work with your brand. So a big part of what Lasso does is how do we utilize video to help you attract new patients? We're an all-in-one patient acquisition platform. Again, our focus is on how do we utilize video to build an authentic, genuine online presence, one that actually resonates with your patients or prospective patients, helps create a genuine, authentic, emotional connection, one where people can start to trust you, get to know you prior to even meeting you in person. And I say this all the time, what separates one dentist from the other in the eyes of a consumer? The answer is nothing until they get to know you. But they can't get to know you until they're coming in for that consult or coming in for an appointment, whatever it might be. However, if you have video introducing yourself, talking about your different passions, your patient treatment philosophy, showing off your practice, your team, that's how people get to know you prior to working with you. So yeah, that's a little bit about
I love this discussion. A lot of times I go and speak, right? I didn't sprout up out of a cabbage patch in 2017 on Facebook. I was alive doing things prior to that. But what's cool is, I make all these videos through Dental Nachos and Dentist Job Connect, and I often sit with people at lunch. I literally just was at a meeting at the Three Rivers Dental Conference, and I see these nice dentists come up and they're waiting to talk to me, and they sit down, they say, I love what you do at Dental Nachos, which is very nice because many people complain about free stuff, but that's to the side. And then I asked them this question after we talk, and I go, you follow Dental Nachos, what do you think of me in person, like versus Dental Nachos, right? I'm just curious. And they always say, you're just like your videos. And it's amazing because they feel like they have developed a relationship with me through videos. And that's what you need to do in your hometown. I always say, make your face familiar, make someone go, oh, that's the team dentist. And my amazing dad, he did this the old fashioned way. He coached team sports. He did things with the schools. There was no internet when he was a dentist. So he literally had to take his human body and move it around our town, and he loved coaching sports. And now you can do this through video, and you are doing the website for our hygiene center. Mm-hmm. And I want to ask you the next question, kind of, when dentists hire an associate, your team goes out, shoots videos, and how often are they doing a solo practice versus more than one dentist? Just off the top of your head, 50-50, 75 solo, 25.
I would say probably around 50-50. I've seen a big uptick in recent years of multiple, associates at a practice, or just even multiple practices under one brand. It used to be a lot more of your single location, single practitioner, but nowadays it's just making sense to combine forces. It makes everyone's jobs a lot easier. So I would say around 50-50 currently, with our.
I love this. I want to catch my audience up. I'm talking with you, also Pete Johnson, founder of Lasso, key resource and sponsor. You can text Lasso to 215-543-6455 to learn more. They are doing the website for our awesome hygiene center. So keeping with this theme is one of the challenges as a solo dentist, or even when my dad wanted to add me in, was I want to see the guy. I want to see old Dr. Goodman. I want to see, you guys are doing Christian Mullen, and he has an associate, my friend. So this is a problem because people go, oh, I wanted to see Dr. Jeff Goodman. Who's this Dr. Alicia? But when you put them online, you now can say, oh, there's more than one face there. So how important do you see for group practices that they showcase all the dentist faces so the patients are not surprised when they come in?
Incredibly important. In fact, that's one of the biggest concerns that clients have when they're onboarding with us. Like, let's say a client signs up today, but they have an associate that they know is starting in the next 3 to 4 months. I always advise to them to wait until that associate starts, especially if you have plans for that associate to potentially buy into the practice one day. It's not just like, they're making a quick stop here for a year or two. It's really important to showcase the people that your patients will be working with the most. On the flip side, there's a lot of turnover with hygiene, things like that. So you really want to stay away from the members that or the team members that have more turnover, in the sense of making them a focal point of the video. It's not a bad idea to include them in the video, because you can always edit them out at a later date. That's the beauty of video, is it can be changed. So if your associate leaves, you just come back to us and say, hey, we need to edit this person out of the video and add this person who's our new associate, which you can do.
And I love this theme, and I know you have an awesome family. So next question I ask this is like, I've never been a new mom, okay? But I have lived with a new mom, and I've seen how stressful it is. And I've strived to be as supportive as possible. But I have no real context of what that feels like, right? I just don't. But I try to be as helpful as possible. So I don't think you're going to go to dental school, but you are an arm's length away, metaphorically, literally, from dentist, and you referred us a client to Dentist Job Connect who needed an associate, and he was your client, and he was sharing this pain. So maybe new moms are sharing, I don't have the time to go to the gym, I don't have time to myself. And then people who like them are like, okay, let me see how I can make this less worse for you. I always say that, right? So your clients, we do Dentist Job Connect, and we're very proud of it. Why did they tell their website person about hiring an associate? Like, how did that even happen? I'm actually curious.
Great question. So we met this client at a DEO event in June, and really they were struggling to find someone to come up and work in a remote part of, I believe it was either Oregon or Washington. Yeah, Oregon. And I was like, hey, I know the exact person. And the reason it got brought up was because he would like to move out of the guy I referred to would like to move out of practicing every single day. He really needs to find an associate. He's getting older. It's a beautiful place to live. And he's like, it's one of the most beautiful places in the world. I'm paying a lot of money, but getting someone to move out here has been so difficult. And I was like, hey, I know the guy for you. Dr. Nacho is the person to talk to. He has a huge network. And yeah, that's really how it came about.
I really appreciate that referral. People can text hire to 215-798-9897, dentistjobconnect.com. And I love doing these interviews because I think of new ideas. One of the things I actually think you guys should add to your packages, so this referral, who we just got him someone to apply recently.
Oh, nice.
His job is off the beaten path, right? And the beaten path in dentistry is New York City. The beaten path in dentistry is Austin, Texas. The beaten path in dentistry is Philadelphia. These are no judgments, just observations. And what I do, Pete, is I interview them on video. But one of the things I think the guy who came to do our website shoot was amazing. I forget his name. You should add in and say, hey, stand behind this thing in your office and just give us 90 seconds of why it would be good to work for you as a dentist. And we're going to keep it, and you're going to need it. Because if I had that for him, I think we could have driven even more applicants. And I'm not saying, but what I would love for your team to do is to extract, dental pun intended, just say, hey, I want to do 90 seconds of why it'd be good to work for you as a dentist. Hey, I'm Dr. Nacho. We have a group practice. You're going to do restorative dentistry. We train you in how to talk to patients. And because these dentists, what's interesting, Pete, is the same thing is they're kind of afraid to be on video. So that's what I want to ask you next. How do you, if someone wants to text Lasso to 215-543-645 and learn about you, and they say, hey, Pete, cost is not the issue. Time is not the issue, but I don't think me and my team want to be on video. We're afraid. How do you break down that fear for them?
That is a very common question that I get. It's actually the way we do things. It's all very conversational. So really, like, you are the expert. You know more about your practice. You know more about dentistry than 99% of the population. So what we do is we sit down with you. We ask you questions. We want you to answer in your truest way. Just say, hey, I'm Pete. This is why I started doing dentistry. This is why I opened up my practice. So we have a set of questions that we know are going to prompt the right answers. And then really, the first couple times you're answering a question, it might come off a little weird. You might be able to tell that that person's nervous. But once you get into the flow of the thing and you get to know the video person you're working with, it becomes a fun experience. I would say some of the biggest feedback that we get after our video shoots is how easy that experience was and how they weren't as nervous as they thought they were going to be, because it's all about the person there working with you. When we first started, we had practices script out, or we would script out, what they were supposed to say, bring out a teleprompter. That did not go well.
Yeah. Well,
That did not
because
go well at all.
I'm a big fan of Gary Vee, and the document. You guys have this magical. He says document, not produce, right? And it's true. I have a 60-second iPhone video of my patient Janice. She signed a HIPAA consent form. It has 11,000 views.
Yep.
It's not a Lasso video. So that's not what I want on my website. I do want on YouTube, but what you guys do in an amazing way is you create these clear, good sound, good quality, but it feels documented, not produced. And if someone misses a word, that's just part of life, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And when things are too scripted, people just know it's too scripted, right? And I think you guys should also do this, Pete. You should get at the end of those sessions, you should get the toughest customer who didn't want to be on video and just ask first and say, how is being on video? And they'll go, it's easier than I think.
Very good idea.
Because there's people on this Zoom right now that I care about very much behind the scenes that I cannot pull them onto video for Dental Nachos and Dentist Job Connect. And as a leader, it's tough, right? Because you don't want to, the deal with pushing people out of their comfort zone, it has to be done with care, right? Mm-hmm. Guiding them versus pushing is different. But I think, you get a lot of, I'm really glad we did this. And what I wanted to ask you next, and I wanted to share is, I always think that people wait till people's funeral to say nice things about them. And it's kind of sad that the person's not there listening. And on Curb Your Enthusiasm, they had a very hilarious episode with this, where I think it was Albert Brooks threw himself a funeral party and he went upstairs and watched, and he turned out to be a hoarder. But in a less dramatic way than life and death, dental offices don't pause and remember why they do things. They don't pause and get patients that love them. So whether it's a Lasso video shoot or ones in the past, it's a magical day for the team to literally bring in people that love you. And I'm just telling you, there's a big kindness movement, Pete, but not for dentists. People still come in and say, I hate you. People still come in and say, you're expensive. So when you can have this day of this morale boost, that's a big part of what you guys do. And I'm curious, do you see that with other offices?
Absolutely. Another big question I get, is it hard to get patients to come in? And the answer is no. You might get a couple no's, and it's not bad to incentivize people for their time, just to show it's worth, their time is worth something, $25 Amazon gift card, whatever, something like that. But these people feel proud to be asked to be on video. You're making them a champion of their practice. And especially if you've done right by them and helped change their life and, solved a problem they're having, they want to shout it from the rooftops. They want everyone to know how great you are. And it makes you feel really good to hear all these nice words being said about you. So like you said, it creates a really big, team morale moment where you're realizing the impact that you're making on these people's lives. Because like you said, we can get so bogged down with people complaining, saying bad things about us, because people are much more apt to say something negative than they are to talk about a good experience typically. Right. We like to complain more than we like to compliment.
Yeah, and that's, it happens to all of us. I mean, do you think, Pete, at the end of the day, about all the people who like you, that one customer who complained this was late? Do I think of all the people at Nachos that tell me that they changed my life, or the one person that says, oh, Paul, you talk about this too much, right? And I think, that's just a way to reframe your brain. And I think also, as we get closer to wrapping up, this is really important for me to point out with companies like Lasso. It's great that you bring new patients, but what I think is equally as great is that you showcase the potential people who might want to work for us, right? I have an ad out for a hygienist, an assistant, a front desk team member. The first thing they do is go to my website. And we did a fun website that needs work contest. In a watch out factor, do you see dentists who are doing top of the line dentistry and their website looks terrible and it's causing hiring problems for them?
Absolutely. I think that, especially with a lot of, older dentists as well, they'll come to me and say, hey, I need a website because I want to sell my practice in a couple of years. I need to make sure that my practice is up to snuff and that it looks good online. And a lot of these group practices that we work with, or, with lots of associates, they have career pages on their website where they have videos of them talking about why you should come work with us. The more that you can showcase who you are, what type of brand you have, like what your morals, your values are, how you treat your team, all that kind of stuff. That's what someone's looking for when looking for a new job. They want to make sure that they're going to like working with you, like working with the people around them, that they're in a place that's utilizing technology. Like if your website looks like it was built in 2005, even if your practice is top of the
Yes.
line with all the newest technology, they're going to, in their mind, they're like, okay, this person probably doesn't done anything. And that's the same way a patient looks at your website too. Like you could have the nicest practice, but if you have a website that doesn't illustrate that, they don't know that, and they never will, because they'll probably choose someone else.
And I love this part of the conversation. I'll use just a general example that cuts across both, men and women from my life. Like most women are not going to get dressed up for a wedding and then wear Crocs, even though Crocs have made a big comeback. Okay.
Yeah.
So no, but
certainly
it wouldn't align. It wouldn't align in people's brain. Right. And women are like, hey, my wife, I got to get the right pair of shoes for this outfit. And then if we take a guy, a guy example is when I go on a golf trip with my friends, I don't have one club from the 1980s, right? I don't have one wooden driver. It just wouldn't fit with how I'm showing up, right? And how you show up to hires is just as important as how you show up for patients, maybe even more important. And
I would argue that it's probably more important because that person is deciding to devote 8 hours of every day of their life to you, not just coming in every couple months for a cleaning or when they need something done.
Yeah, and that's why looking your best, whatever your best is so key. Well, I appreciate you sharing all this, Pete. People can text Lasso to 215-543-6454. If people want to go to your website and check out some of the work you've done, what's the best place for them to go?
Yeah, so www.lassomd.com. We actually just launched our brand new corporate website about a week ago. So lots of cool stuff on there, lots of examples of work, lots of videos explaining what we do, since we do utilize a lot of video marketing. Got to practice what you preach. So yeah, lassomd.com. And then like Paul said, you can text that number to schedule time to chat with us and learn more about what we do.
Awesome, people. This was my first job with Dentist Job Connect, dentistjobconnect.com. Text hire to 215-798-9897. Thanks so much, Pete.
Bye, guys.